Welcome back to another episode of the Cinematographer 101 podcast. Today we are joined by a very special guest, which is British focus puller Oscar Harrison.
Hello.
Thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks for asking me in.
I think, as I do with most guests, the way to get started is, give a little lowdown of who you are, what you do for the people to know.
So, as you said, yeah, I'm a focus puller. Don't really know how to preface that or to.
I mean, when did you get started? How
So I'm a bit fuzzy on dates, but I started in post production. Mm-hmm. So I started off as a runner in post house. I worked at the Mill and then Molyneux, and found out after doing that for 2 years that wasn't for me at all. I really wasn't very suited to be inside the same office, commuting to the same place every day, working with numbers and files, and it just wasn't my bag. I got sort of through my social periphery, I was lucky enough to have a bunch of friends who went to a film school, LFS and NFTS, and one of those in particular said, "Hey, do you want to just come on as a spark or as a camera trainee on one of my graduation films or term films, and see if you like it," because he knew I wasn't having good fun in post. So that's kind of how that started. I then traineed for a year. Traineed, sort of slowly traineed, and then second AC'd for another 2 years after that. And then I've now been focus pulling for 7 years.
Wow.
It kind of just happened organically. I didn't have a particular desire to be a first or a second or no plan. There was no plan. It was just organically dropped in. What am I good at? And I found out I was good at being camera, being on site, running around, and problem solving with my hands.
And I mean, for a 7-year hiatus as a focus puller, I mean, you've had quite an ascension, I may say, because obviously you started out, I'm assuming, with short films.
Yeah. And
then you went on over time to focus pull on TV shows like House of Dragons. Yeah. And some other big ones. More recently, I'll let you decide if you choose to.
I think if we're talking about the one that's currently going on,
then that's fair.
I will not mention any names.
All I can say is there's a lot more very big TV shows that you've got been able to work on, and I think it's quite exciting to see that there is such a landscape for focus pullers that you can sort of. I wouldn't say quickly because it's still 7 years, but
it feels pretty quick.
I'm sure it feels quick.
Every next step and every bigger set that you jump onto, I think it's only natural that you have this sense of you realize where you started, and you don't necessarily. There's no sort of hallmarks or physical milestones that you can see that show to you that you're ready to be there.
Exactly.
Until you're there. It's not that you don't believe that you can do it, and I'm someone that generally doesn't put myself into positions that I don't feel I'm ready for. But no one tells you you're good enough. You find out when you're doing it that you're good enough.
Yeah, especially I think you learn your job. It learns a lot based on consequences, isn't it? Because it's you're probably not going to be told there and then like you're not getting the next job. It'll be like.
You're not told if you're not coming in the next day.
Exactly.
It's you're only as good as your last day.
Exactly.
Is a saying, and more than that, you're only as good as your last shot in some jobs, in some instances. And I've worked with people who've just suddenly not turned up the next day, like my operator or whatever. Shit. So what? One bad day is enough just to kick him off a job.
Exactly. And I feel like your job, and I did it for a year, and really you feel that pressure. And I think do you ever feel like it eases off, because at the end of the day, compared to other jobs on set where there is prep, and when camera rolls, it's outside of their control, but when camera rolls, all that control all of that, what people built, falls upon sort of your shoulders. Is there ever a point where, I'm sure when you started you kind of felt that pressure, but is there a point where that pressure eases off?
I couldn't precisely say when it eases off or what level of experience is required for you to not feel it. But most situations now, regardless of the scale of the job, you just get on with it. And having that little monkey in the back of your brain telling, "Oh, don't fuck up. Can I swear?"
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Sorry. Don't mess this up. It's not helpful.
Yeah.
And it's I don't consciously suppress it, but I generally don't feel it. If it's a big setup, Technicrane, car stunts, explosions, breakables, yes, there is the pressure to perform, and particularly when you don't have an in-camera rehearsal before going for it. We'll just change this, or you've done a half-speed rehearsal without the blood and explosions and squibs and whatever. So you can't quite feel prepared for whatever might happen.
Yeah.
That's a little bit stressful. But no, you generally you don't bring it into once the camera rolls. You just have to lock in and go for it. And
Yeah.
there's almost no.
And obviously that's what DPs expect of you. But as someone who has worked now with quite a range of cinematographers, from sort of the younger ones starting out to sort of A-game cinematographers, on these big shows, is there anything that you kind of expect from a DP?
Well, yes and no. That's a very broad statement, and it's entirely circumstantial. It depends on the job. If it's a smaller scale, or not even small scale, if it's a single camera, close relationship with the DP, then I almost expect a bit more, and we'd have a understanding of our capabilities and sort of shot styles and what is reasonable to ask for me to do or to be able to achieve without having to go again and again and again. Let's say, for example, there was something I did recently that we had we were on an 85mm K35 wide open with a +3 diopter in on a 6-foot slider, and we started in right in the eye.
Yeah.
And we pulled out as far as the diopter would allow, and then they obviously wanted the whole shot in, and that's as razor as it can be. I was also on mini LF, large format, or something along those lines. Can't particularly remember the spec, but it was an unreasonable shot, and we only knew we had time to try it 3 or 4 times, and we couldn't rehearse it with the actor. And once we realised we put the actor in, they're bobbing their head around all over the place, and they look with their face and not with their eyes. So
Yeah.
we had one shot basically where the actor did what they were required to do, and camera didn't get it wrong, but it wasn't perfect. And then we had to move on.
But
and that was an unreasonable ask. And if that was on a larger scale show, I'm not quite sure what I would have done, but I would have made it very plain to the DOPs. I think this is unreasonable. This is how we can't just do this once or twice and expect us to get it, because this is nails. There was another job that I was on where it was we had a talent crossing a flagpole. This was on a feature, a 10 million, 18 million pound film. I'm not sure what it is now. The budget seems to go up every time I talk to someone who was on that job. So, oh, by the way, have you heard the new numbers? So we had some quite well-known cast, and fairly elderly too, in a stunt rig, on a wire rig, crawling across a flagpole over a chasm, in a studio, blue screen studio. And we're on the Venice 2. It's on the head, on the Matrix head. It was a multi-axis Technicrane. It was a very cool rig. And we've got, we're in a blue screen studio. We've got as much light as we could possibly want. We've got sky panels all over the place to give us ambience. We've got direct spots and things, and we're shooting everything wide open. And it wasn't for a particular reason, because we're on blue screen. The background's going to be added in afterwards. There's no depth to be had here.
Mm-hmm.
We're just shooting wide open because we've been doing it all day, and no one had addressed it. The DP hadn't addressed it. And this particular shot is starting all the way in the face and then pulling out the full extension of the arm, so 36 feet or something.
Right.
And I just went up to we tried it once or twice, and it wasn't perfect because it was hard. And I just went up to the DP and said, why is there, and I was a little bit more polite than this, but I said, why, is there a particular reason we're shooting this wide open? And he goes, what do you mean? Like, well, can you give me some more level? Can we shoot this at 4? Can we shoot this at 5.6? And he goes, well, it's like, all the lights are at minimum. I also sneakily went to talk to the gaffers. Like, what level are these sky panels at? So, they're at mins. Okay. And as soon as I brought it up to the DP, he goes, yeah, sure, all right. 50%. Went to 5.6 or whatever, and got it in 1. It's like, great, moving on. It's lots of times things almost get set without consideration.
Do any of those discussions happen before as well? I mean, obviously, I think you mentioned a lot of your job is sort of trying to problem solve on set, but it obviously depends on the job, but do you ever get instances where you're able to have decisions or be part of those decisions in with the DP? And
again, it also goes down to the relationship you have with the DOP or how close you are. I've got another DOP that I've worked with a lot, Aaron Rogers, who I'm very close with. I consider him one of my best friends, and he's very considerate. He's very understanding and very talented and experienced. And if we've got something, say, like that coming up, we would have talked about it prior, and we'd know we'd have talked about something like that prior. Anything sort of particularly techie coming up, or it's a one through a house at night on a DSLR. We do our best or he does his best for me to make sure I'm as fully prepped and versed and I'm clued into what we're actually going to be doing,
right,
and how to help me plan our way through. So making sure that nothing's going to be in shot. All of our kit is nicely stored away, and we're in a nice central point. For me, say focus pulling, as I need signal. I need to know where we're going to go and what we're going to see and what we're not going to see, and where I can be in the most ideal place for me to park myself is. And just simple things like that, being logistically minded, and having the DOP also be logistically minded, and not having to flop the set, flop the lights. All the equipment has to move from one side to the other 3 times, 4 times. It's like, well, if we have to have gear in the room, and we're going to flop the situation, we'll just do that once if we can, to just save your crew, save your energy, save your running around moving things and plugging battery chargers. And it's I forgot I'm on a tangent. I've forgotten the initial question.
No, it was just like being involved in the creative decisions and discussions with a DP.
I see. Yes, and I suppose that kind of bridges a bit with grip department of how are we going to achieve this shot. I am sometimes involved in those suggestions, but it's less common for me. I'd say. I think I'd be more of a grip.
Do you, considering you, I think, work with so many different tools more often than DPs do, because you're jumping from job to job, there's different lenses, different cameras, blah, blah, blah. Do you ever have opportunities to turn to a DP and who's maybe going like, oh, well, I want to shoot anamorphic, and be like, oh, by the way, like, I really recommend these lenses or this kit or this camera?
Yeah, maybe not particularly in a professional capacity, but a lot of DOPs that I've worked with that haven't particularly got a preference of lenses or camera. And in pre-production we might have a chat, and there's talk of doing lots of low light, or we want to do some water stuff, so we need to have a splash bag or whatever, and I'll based on my experience, I'll throw out some names and throw out some recommendations of what Lex 35 and the Venice 2 are very good at low light, very capable. I've worked with them a lot. They're easy to work with. A bit less so with the Venice 2. I've had some horror stories with that thing, but lenses are a difficult one. They're generally very personal, very people have an opinion on those. And for me, I don't particularly care.
Even though some lenses are easier to maybe pull focus on than others, or
that's a bit of a muchness, and that can also be. You can have the easiest lenses to pull on in the world for clarity and sharpness, and then you'll put a bunch of diffusion in front of it, and then suddenly it's like anything else.
Right.
I'd never recommend a lens for a job because it's easy to pull on. I think that's not my place.
Fair enough.
And it's it's not my place.
And what about going back to, so obviously we've discussed sort of potential discussions, but then I think your job really begins in the prep. What is your ideal prep for a film with a DP? Like what?
Again, that's pretty open-ended, and it depends a lot on how extensive the film's going to be, how long it's going to be, what the kind of locations we're going to go to, if it's cold weather, wet weather, outdoors most of the time. So the basic prep, sort of universal prep that I'd like to get would be 3 days for this is for short. So okay, 3 sections, not necessarily 3 days. For shorter projects, longer projects obviously much longer. Shorter projects, I'd like to have a day of testing with the camera that we're going to be using and the lenses we're going to be using. I'd like to test collimation. I'd like to test that the lenses are accurate to where they say they're going to be. If we've got doublers and diopters and such, you do grid tests, and you'd find out if any particular lens has got any interesting quirks. Like there was a lens I used the other day that it had a DoP iris blade on the inside of it, and it from wide open until T4, you could see the iris petal sort of giving a crazy flare in one corner of the lens, where the petal is on the inside of the lens. And because we managed to do prep, we knew this, and we're like, well, we can't fix it in time for the job, but we know that one particular lens is not great with direct light. If you haven't got direct source into the lens, you don't particularly notice.
Right.
So we're like, okay, that lens we've marked up. That one's a particularly edgy lens for direct light, so we'll generally try and avoid that. So collimation is I'd like to take the day. Grids and collimation is a day. Then you get your second in and go through all your video and make sure that all your BNC cables work and all your monitors are fine. And you know it's 1 in 10 prep I'll do. I'll pick up the monitor that is the 703 for the director. You give it a shake, and then the fucking thing dies because there's a loose connection in there. Right. Or the battery plate's not great, or you turn them on, and then every monitor looks different. There's like people have gone into the settings and they've changed the RGB values, and there's no synchronicity across the range. So you'd be nice to just kind of like factory reset everything, get them as close to as possible. So you know that everyone's looking at a very similar image. Be nice to have all the monitors of the same brand. Generally, small HD is my preference. And then you go to your camera rigs, and if let's say you've got a set of primes and you've got an Angenieux 24-290 or something, you're going to have different builds to accommodate the different size lenses, and it's nice to have time to try and find a build that fits all eventualities without having to move your motors around all the time. And so, the balance is so dramatically different, and having to, it's nice to sort of just narrow your build down to as universal as it can possibly be. So when you're on set and you have to go between 24 to 290 to back to primes, back to whatever, or back to Ronin, onto a Ronin, sort of just getting all your individual unique builds down, and knowing where all the pieces for that are, and setting up your run bags and having it as a efficient, having your processes as efficient as possible. That's my ideal prep.
And what do you ever notice mistakes or things that young DPs might omit on during prep that really comes to bite back at them on shoots?
Off the top of my head, no. The only thing that I generally raise about young, inexperienced DOPs is not particularly knowing the process or not having a reasonable understanding of how long things might take. So I've had situations where I've been asked to say go on to we had a dolly conventional dolly setup and a Ronin 2 setup, which the Ronin 2 was so we're on Venice, and how we'd rigged our Ronin 2s at this point was Rialto. So for us to go from conventional on the dolly to Ronin 2 was a Rialto change. So we'd take the camera away, take it up to the liner, put unplug it, put the Rialto on, get the lens onto the Ronin 2, rebalance it, swap my motors over because I didn't have a set of motors for the Rialto and the conventional, so I'd have to swing my motors over, which is, it's not a big thing. It just takes some time. And it was, I think all in all, it was about a 7 or 8 minute change to go from Rialto to Ronin. So I bring the Ronin in, all ready to go, and as I'm ringing up the DP, well, at this point actually it was the operators. It was the operator and the DP. Both, they changed their mind again. So we could think we're going to do this conventional after all. Okay. Are you sure? Yes. All right, I'll go and rebuild conventional. I took it away, rebuilt it to conventional, brought it back in. Actually, can we do it on the Ronin? And I put my foot down. So this was at the end of an 11-week feature, and we were all knackered. And I put my foot down. I just took them aside and said, look, can you just go and find the shot, show me the shot, show us the shot, decide on what you're going to do, and then I'll go and do it, because we're wasting time. Like, it's been 45 minutes of me just swinging things backwards and forwards, and at any moment the AD is going to come over and bite my head off of wasting time or being slow. It's like, I'm not being slow, you just don't know what you're doing and you're making me look bad. So figure out what you want to do and I'll do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, for the DP, he wasn't involved in this process at all. He didn't have a technical understanding of how long this takes and what we're actually doing to go from. He just says something, turns back, and then it's done. And that was just inexperience. He had a lot of other things to think about, but I just raised it to him. This takes time, and this could potentially come back and bite us if we now don't get the shot or have to cut stuff further down the line. We spent 45 minutes umming and ahhing over conventional Ronin for this particular shot. The diopter story, the DP of that job hadn't AC'd much at all. I don't want to. They weren't a professional first. They weren't a professional first, and there was an expectation just to get it right, and I had to quite plainly say this isn't going to go our way in 1 or 2 takes. Yeah. That's little things like that. Having an understanding of the technicalities of what it is that I do is appreciated. It's not required, but it's appreciated.
And so what's the best way of building trust with a DP? Like how would you build that level of trust, and that you can sort of step your foot down? I mean, like you said, obviously a DP should be able to turn to you, and you should be able to have a voice, but I feel like from some stories you have to build a level of trust between you two, so that
it's a delicate game. I've worked with DPs 5 or 6 times, feel like we've got a fairly good understanding of each other, and then they throw something out, or that I'll say something and they'll snap at me, or I'll get vibe checked. I'll realise that we're not quite at the place that I thought we were. So I don't have an answer to that question.
Right.
You work together as you do. if you end up becoming friends or build a relationship beyond work or via work during work, that's great, fantastic. But it's purely down to individuals. I get on really well with some DPs, and I not so much some others. I've got a particular personality, and I'm giving up trying to change it. I'll hopefully, and for the most part, I work with people that I gel with. There's certainly the ones that keep me around, and I'm honest.
Yeah.
I think the ones that like to keep me around value my honesty. I'm not going to lie to you, and I also won't like needlessly complain. Just because something's difficult doesn't mean it can't be done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you no. If something is unlikely to happen, if we're unlikely to get it in 1 or 2 takes, I'll raise it or I'll ask for stop. I'm not above doing that. There's definitely situations where I've just said, look, guys, I know how much time we've got, and I know how much we've got to do. This is a very difficult shot. Can I have half a stop? Can I have a stop?
I think what you raise is a good point, which is, I think with young DPs or ACs out there, it's honesty is the best policy. Obviously, you have to be able to gauge, the fight, which fight to pick, but also like when's the right time to speak. But at the same time, an AC should step in and be like, listen, we're here to. I'm here to work with you, and so this is what I really recommend, versus sort of accepting it and then accepting all the chaos, and then it comes back to bite you when the camera starts rolling. I mean, do you, obviously, is there any? You've mentioned a little bit about it, but like, is there any way? What's the best way of fixing like miscommunication between you and a DP?
Direct communication is the best way of fixing miscommunication.
Right.
If there's any ambiguity about what it is I'm being asked to do, I'll go and clarify. I don't want to go and prepare for a setup that I'm unsure about and I get it wrong, and suddenly you're out of positions. Oh, well, what do you mean? We need to go conventional dolly and there's blood all over the place. Why is the camera's not bagged? For example. So if you as an AC, if I am ever unsure, I will clarify, and I'll worst case scenario the situation. So as I've just said, there's an actor that's got a blood rig on, and you talk to special effects and go, well, where's it going to go? How voluminous is this? What is the blood water or gel based, or is it? Do we need a spray off rain deflector? Do we need to bag everything? And I don't need to talk to the DoP about that. That's in my own realm to talk to the other departments that will potentially cause damage to the camera and figure out what level of safety I need to enact. Or there's times where I've told DOPs no, where they've wanted to put. Do you know what a spin hawk is?
No, I don't.
A spin hawk is a rotating head.
Oh,
but it's massive. It's I don't know how many, 12 kilos. It's huge. I mean, a rigged Sony Venice in there with a a mid-sized prime and a spin hawk on an O'Connor 2575. It was about 33 kilos, I think.
wow.
And he wanted to put it on a jib, like just a mini jib.
Yeah.
We had no grip on a day. I was like, I'm not doing this. This is dangerous. It could tip over at any point, and there's no one here is trained to really rig this. It was it was also at the payload limit of the piece of equipment that we had.
Right.
And he just didn't know. He didn't know, and it was down to me to say no, to make the call. This is unsafe. I've had DOPs who wanted to shoot out of moving vehicles on open roads in London. They just wanted to hang out of open the side door of a splinter van or whatever, and film. So no. For one, all my gear's on the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insured, but no, and it's illegal. we didn't have permits for it. It's unsafe, it's illegal, and it could potentially hurt pedestrians. So I told him no. That was a fractious day and a fractious relationship. I didn't have not worked with that guy again.
Do you ever have some DPs sort of, you tell them no, and at first they're a bit frustrated, but then they come back to you and they're like, actually, thanks for bringing that up. Thanks for.
I'd like to think so, but I can't really recall
Fair enough.
any situations where I've had someone thank me for telling them no.
Fair.
I think I'd like to think that there's some kind of appreciation that I've saved their bacon in some ways. If it went wrong, they'd be liable, and we'd either have destroyed the camera or really got in trouble for other reasons.
Oh, fair enough.
Or I'm trying to think of a last example that I had that.
I mean, I think you said it right. I think there's some DPs, we're so in a zone that is very chaotic, controlled but chaotic, where we're handling so many different aspects that we're not always thinking straight, and having some voice of reason, even if it's not what we want to hear, is good. And we probably, when we then zone out of all that chaos, we kind of go, oh wait, maybe that was that was the right shout. But moving on to a subject which ties us, which is the first project we worked on together, which is my most recent project. Even though we've known each other for years, but we finally found the time to work together, which was the spec commercial for Cook and Uber. As an AC, that's quite a challenge of a shoot, because it's action packed. We're an anamorphic. It's all handheld. Never two takes the same, and I think we were wide open. I think so. I think
so.
I think I was wide open to 2-1, and
rookie numbers.
Exactly, and we didn't
anything that hasn't got a 1 in it. Fine.
And I think we didn't do much prep. I mean, I spoke to you a little bit at the start of the shoot, sort of give you an idea of what we were doing, but we never did sort of like marks or anything. And I mean, obviously, it's why I wanted to bring you on so badly, is because obviously, you're amazing at what you do, but you kept that kind of focus. But like, how do you approach action-packed scenes like that with so much camera movement and character movement?
Other than just being really flippant, so you just go on with it, which you do. I have a basic system of, I'd like to know the first and last position of where we're going to be, and I'll put 2 marks on my ring, and I kind of know we're in relation to these 2 points. Wherever you are is where we should generally be. And also we're shooting digital. You've monitors are so good now. You can, it's a bit of a crutch. You can lean on it a little bit too much. But on the flip side, now everything's so razor thin focus wise, you need them. You can't realistically pull the old school way, where you're like, well, they're a few feet away and you can stand next to the camera and run along, or you can kind of do it a bit with dolly. But handheld stuff now, you need a good monitor. You just need to know, are you on the eye, or are you a little bit behind it, or where are you? And you use your reference. And going back to that shoot that we did underground, it was okay. It wasn't too crazy, and you were fairly predictable. You kind of did. We'd do a take, and I'd have a strong idea of what we're going to do and what you're going to do next, or do again. And it worked fine. There was no real. I don't quite know how to explain focus pulling.
Yeah.
In
There's no like tips or tricks that like you kind of learned over time because with these movements, it's like predicting the movement.
You get used to the range. Your muscle. I've got WCU4, and I've used that for years now. And whatever lens you put it onto, it'll I have the muscle memory of the system. I've got the muscle memory of well, that's 3 foot. That's 7 foot. Whatever. You kind of have a feeling of how what your movement equates to on lens. And when you'll line a shot up and you'll be at a midpoint. So let's say from me to you, and I'm there. You'll move in. That's that much, and then I'll know inversely. If you move the same distance away, it's the same distance the other way.
Right.
And I'll have that as a reference, and I'll be feeling what you're doing more than what the actors are doing in a lot of instances. And you get in sync. Once you're in sync with your camera operator, it's much easier. It's always a bit stressful on the first day where you jump onto a job and you with a steady op or a cam op that you've never worked with before, and you don't know how they move, and you don't know how they react, and if they're consistent. If they say they're going to hit the same mark every time, I mean, you can't rely on it. You can't rely on the actors or the operators hitting their marks to do it perfectly every time. It's just not fair to expect that of them. And also, if they want to do something different because something else looked better, go for it. I'm not going to fluff a take and then throw my hands up in the air and say, "Well, you did something different. You didn't end when you said you were going to end."
Yeah.
You have to be adaptable.
Is there anything that you feel free to be honest, is there anything you wish I'd done differently on that set? I mean, I'm aware that I could have, my communication could have been a bit more prominent on set, I think.
What, to me?
Probably to you, or maybe not.
No, I didn't. If I needed more support, I'd have asked for it.
Right.
So in that instance, you were busy. You had a lot to think about with the director and the choreography of the thing, and I didn't need it. Okay. I didn't need it.
Is there anything though that you reckon that could have been done different? Or
I'd have liked a second wrap.
A second wrap?
A second lunch. Second more food. that would have been good. But no,
that's fair.
Within the scope of what we were doing, you were fine.
Okay.
We did.
I mean, it was. I have to say, it was. It was an interesting shoot, even for me, because it was. Even for us, we'd done a rehearsal day 2 days before the shoot, and we'd gone through a whole choreography, which I think on the day we ended up having to scrap, because then someone had brought up a point about like the lack of comedic beats in it. And then especially now that the car was in this position and we'd got the fourth stuntman, which we hadn't had on rehearsal day, the whole camera positions had to change. And so it was such a relief for me to have someone like you, where I was also having to relearn the shots and think on the spot, like what's the right camera movement and blah blah. And it didn't matter if I'd completely reinvented something on the spot. Like, you were really always on top of it. And and then I think, I mean, luckily on this shoot, we didn't have anything that was too crazy, I don't think, in terms of shots. But you've sort of brought it up, but is there any instances besides Focus where you go, like, the shot's too ambitious? This is like...
Yeah. That has happened. There's definitely been shots where I've... rephrase the question.
No, it's just like when you have a DP that can, especially with action sequences, I feel like that's where you see a lot more of them, but where the shots are just way too ambitious. It's just like not even necessarily for focus pulling, even though most of the time that will be affected. But is there ever an instance where you kind of go, "Ooh, this maybe like this isn't going to work"? Like you already know before it happens that you, or you just trust the DP.
Yes and no. The only shots that I'd say are too ambitious are the ones where you haven't got enough time for preparation.
Right.
If we get thrust into a a 5.5 minute oneer that's got as many beats, and people popping out in the foreground, and you've got snap pulls to these for someone pops out of a doorway, looks to our talent, we just like grab the guy at the doorway, grab the guy at the talent, and then but that's 3.5 minutes into the scene. And we and you get one rehearsal or no rehearsals, and then you just do it 3 or 4 times, and I'm moving on. That would annoy me. As I've just described it, that kind of shot should take all day. We should spend all day on that. We should all be on the same page and understand and be as choreographed as possible. And now it just feels like modern productions, the pace that we work at, because it's all digital, and because it's all you've got instant feedback of is it sharp, or something in shot. VFX is so good, so if someone's left a coffee cup in or a mag liner in the background or whatever, you can paint it out if there's money for it. The expectation is you just move quicker. Right. Everyone just moves quicker. Everything moves quicker, and the typical time and care that would go into, say, a shot like that isn't necessarily always taken. Yeah. And that's the only instance that that comes to mind when I think of this is a little bit too ambitious and might not go right. There are other instances where the lens, I personally think the lens choice is wrong for what it is we're trying to do. Let's say it's too long. Doing a walk and talk follow, or not, whatever, lots of handoffs and whatever, and we're on an 85 K35 wide open, and it's like the margin for error is just zero. Yeah. I was like, yes, I can do it, but when I don't get it, even for a fraction of a second, it's going to be very obvious for the audience and very obvious for us. Mm-hmm. And whereas if that was done on a 50 and you were a bit closer, it would have perhaps told the same story. Not, I can't say for certain. Obviously, lens choices there's reasons behind them, and it's ultimately down to you guys of why you want that lens. But I've been put in positions where it's like this feels like a lens too long for the situation.
Do you ever prepare differently when you pull on spherical versus anamorphic, or especially with vintage anamorphics? Because I remember when I was focus pulling for a year and a half, I'd pulled a lot on like spherical. I've done handheld, a wide open. I've done all of that, but I think the scariest shoot I did was for Simon Oakes, who we were doing a horror short, and he was on like vintage anamorphics, and it was the first time I'd pulled on him. And the whole time, I think I'm of the generation where we learned to focus pull via monitor, not really like the old-fashioned way. And I'm looking at this monitor, and for me, it just never looks in focus, and I am dying because I'm like, this is out of focus. I'm never getting a job again. It's just like, what do I do? And but do you approach those differently? Do you pull differently?
If they're particularly soft anamorphic lenses or old soft glass, I really push for prep, and I'll make sure I get my collimation done, and I want to know that those lenses are sharp to where they say they are, and then I'll ask for aids like CINEGEARPRO or or a rangefinder of any description, and I'll utilize more tools other than just seeing it on the monitor and knowing it's sharp, because as you said, you can't always tell. But if I've measured I'll make a point of measuring with physical measures in set, whereas sphericals are generally it's not that you don't have the time, I just generally don't feel the need to for 90% of the situations I'm doing. But I will measure with anamorphic, and you just use more of the tools that you have accumulated, as in more devices, focus pulling devices and techniques to back you up. So that even if it does look off, and especially if DP turns over to you at the end of the shot, goes, did we get that? But like all your numbers say you got it. The lenses are all lined up, and the camera is where you think it is. And so we got it. Right. It's, I'll just make sure that I'll give myself my best chance, and be able to sort of analytically know that that's most likely correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also I'll watch it back if it's a particularly difficult shot. I've taken the time before, not to ask for another one, but just to I'll have scrubbed through and gone to the difficult beats of that shot, the most important situation. You know, people coming through a doorway or that's embarrassing. People coming through a doorway or such, or important moments and beats in that shot, and I'll go, yep, got it, we're fine.
Right.
You know, not really doesn't happen very often, but I've asked that from time to time, and not being too proud and realizing that the power you do have as an AC. As a first AC, I should say, to check, to slow things down and to go, actually, you know what? No, this is a very complicated series of beats, and we've got a lot of moving parts, lots of actors, lots of marks for them to hit. We're gonna take our time, and we're gonna. I need a camera rehearsal.
Right.
I'm asking for a camera rehearsal, and I'm asking a technical rehearsal even. So I want to know the boom's not going to be in shot. I want to know that everyone knows that they're all going to be in the right place. Yeah, it's
Right.
slow things down.
Yeah.
It's in your place to slow things down, especially when it's difficult. You like, look, do you want to get this, or do you want to rush it and then berate me afterwards and then find someone else, because I'm here to do a job, and I'm here. I want you to get your film.
Right.
I want you to succeed, so help me help you succeed.
Mm-hmm. And just for the sake of it, I think, because as an AC you've worked with a lot of lenses, I feel like it's only right I ask your favorite and least favorite lenses to to work with.
My favorite, I'd say at the moment, are, I think they're called CineGearPro.
Okay.
CineGearPro sphericals. They're just wacky as shit. They're not the answer that a typical AC would say. I don't think, as they aren't particularly easy to pull on. They go pretty wide open. I think 1.5 or something. I don't remember. I've only shot with them once or twice, but they just gave such an interesting look. And for me, like if a lens is interesting, great. I'm all for it. If it's difficult, man, as long as it was fun and I enjoyed looking at that image. And least favorite, mushy Angenu cheap zooms.
Oh, really?
Just Sodom. I just despise them. I think they're boring. Like,
I feel like they're so popular, though.
Well, exactly. They're popular because they're cheap. But the Angenu 24-290, I love it. That's a fantastic lens. It's really good fun. It looks great. But they're cheaper ranges, and the easy ranges just boring. They're not particularly nice to look at, and I can't even recall if they're soft or not. But just don't like them.
Right. Fair enough. And one subject as well that I want to cover is we've talked about lenses extensively, but obviously your job includes the camera itself and all the specs that come with the camera, so codecs and logs, etc. How important is that? Do you find as a focus puller, as a first AC, is knowing every spec of every camera?
I don't know every spec of every camera.
Right.
90% of the jobs I've done have been on ARRI.
Right.
Well, actually, that's probably a little bit outdated now. But okay, let's say 80% of the jobs I've done have been on ARRI, Alexa Minis and Mini LFs.
When you come onto a project with a new camera, do you kind of
I
go
will,
into
yes,
it and
I will,
learn?
If I get given a new, so I know I'm very comfortable with ARRI cameras, and I generally know. I'm not going to throw any numbers out because I will get them wrong, and then there's video evidence of it. But generally know like at what resolutions, the highest FPS that this camera can do, and if you want to go to do high speed, what's the best way of getting there? Is it lowering the codec, or is it lowering resolution? It's usually lowering the resolution. Personally, I'd rather recommend you drop it down to say 2K to go. I think this was a Ronin 4D situation the other day. It was going from 6K to Super 35 4K mode, got us up to 90 FPS or whatever it was that we needed to do, and we still had the same codec. So you still got the same bit depth and color information. which I'd say is more important than resolution. If you're trying to match shots for a show, slightly cropped in. It's never going to be delivered at 6K. It's going to be delivered at 2, or flat scope, whatever it is. If it's going to cinemas or HD, if it's going to TV, who knows? But if I'm going on set with a new camera, and I know in advance that I'm going on with a new camera, I'll do my best to research it and be as clued up as I can. But it's not. I wouldn't say it's vital for every job to be the nerdiest guy in the room. I'm not a particularly nerdy first AC. I'm a problem solver. I look at situations and use experience and deduction to find the best way out of a situation, or I'm a problem solver. That's it. So you do have very, very technical first ACs who know everything about every camera and every lens, and they're great. They have their place. I'm just not one of those people, and I'm still good at my job. You don't have to be. It's not one or the other.
Do you usually have DPs turn to you for advice as to the best sort of settings, or most of the time?
And it depends on how technical they are. I've worked with very technical DAPs who know more than I do about their camera.
Right.
As it might be their own camera, or they're just particularly clued in, particularly interested. And then I've got other DOPs that are lighting guys. They don't care. The camera's a tool. And they just want it to work. They just want it to work.
I feel like the most famous saying of that is Roger Deakins. I mean, he's openly said many times, like, he does not know how to use a camera. He just expects it to do what he needs it to do. So for him, it's having a good first AC who, if he says, oh, well, I need it to be at this, this speed, or if I need it to be, as long as he's got someone who knows how to sort out all of that. But as a DP, knowing all that information and what codec does what, like what codec's the best, it's just as long as it can get the image.
I mean, personally, if I ever stepped up, which I do want to do, I don't want to. As soon as I do, I'm gonna all that information is out of my head. Fuck it. I wouldn't want to be thinking about that whilst trying to think about blocking and that the axes are stacking. How do we get around this? We've got a vehicle coming in, stunts, and you're talking to 3 or 4 different other departments. You've got questions about production design and color palettes and such, and then what codec do I have to go to get to 90 FPS? And it's like, what a boring thing to think about. So I'd say it's on me to know that information. And you ask me, this is what we need to do for the next shot. Enable that to happen, whether it be, pull out the correct number of ND we've got in the front, or we won't get the exposure with the polarizer. So I'd ask you if we're ever going to do anything as drastic as pulling off a polarizer. I'd ask you, but I wouldn't expect to have to ask in most situations. If say we're shooting at 25 FPS and you want to go to 90, and we've had a couple of ND stacks in, and then you go off and go do something else, I'm not going to just change it to 90 FPS and then leave the NDs in, because we're going to be dramatically underexposed from where we were. So I'll take those out. I'll tell you, but I'll take them out without you having to, get involved.
Right.
Maintain to do what I have to do to maintain the same stuff we've been shooting at.
And just going back to a point you made about wanting to step up, I think it's interesting, and I think for young DPs out there that might not understand this yet, a lot of ACs that I've worked with are not looking to step up. A lot of them are very happy to be an AC, and they're happy to stay there for the rest of their careers.
I mean, I'm happy being an AC.
Yeah,
but it is the goal. It's
no, of course, but like, why? Just for those who don't understand, why is it that some ACs do look to step up, but why some don't look to step up?
I think it's a personality thing. I shoot photography. I'm not particularly good at it, but I enjoy it. I like some of the photos I take. and it's a form of expression that it's one of the only art forms that I can actually do. I'm terrible at painting, and can't really write poetry. I'm not very interested in it. So creating visual storytelling is something that I'm passionate about, and it's a obvious evolution to this is the goal, and to run a team, or to being as a DOP, being part of a collaborative process involving all of these different departments and director and a writer's vision, and to coherently and correctly tell the story that is trying to be told, I think is a really cool thing. I think it's a really, really cool the ownership that you have over the final image and final product. I think is a really nice feeling. Or I'd imagine is a really nice feeling. So for me, it's artistic expression. I don't particularly get artistic outlet as an AC. As a first. It's I am facilitating someone else's vision, but I don't get that. I don't get the artistic release, and a lot of ACs don't. That's not a thing that they care about. It's not something that they want. They're good at it. It pays well. They're valued, and that's enough. But I'm putting words in other people's mouths.
No, of course. I feel like as well, the other thing I tend to hear a lot is, cinematography is a lot of politics on set. It's micromanagement, and to an extent I would almost place the politics as a higher percentage of a cinematographer's job than it is the art form, because you're dealing with different departments, you're dealing with all the
managing expectations, problem solving, other departments' issues, and I feel like as an AC you kind of get to be involved, be there, but not deal with all of that stuff. That's a very good point. And for me personally, I know that's going to be the largest learning curve for me, because the longer you spend as an AC, I'd say the less sociable you become, the more antisocial you become. It's very easy to just be the little technical gremlin that says yes and no. A lot of the time, the answers to questions being asked to us are binary. It's like, will it work or won't it? And there's a power to that, but it's not very collaborative. It's certainly not very transferable to being a DOP, because the questions that you have to deal with and you're asked a lot are not yes and no questions. They're opinionated, and they have weight, and they affect other departments, and they affect your relationship with those other HODs. And for example, you're flopping a shop, and you've got to get all of those dead bodies from over there to over there, and then you've got all of these people running all of these heavy mannequins over. And let's say, for example, then we realised, oh whoops, we've still got some stuff to do over there. You've got to make them run all that shit back over. That's not going to ingratiate you to that department very well, making them do much more busy work than they have to. Or another very applicable scenario. Let's say this is to all of you young DOPs out there. If you've got a really brilliant production design department and arts and set design and whatever, and you shoot everything at 1.3, you can't see any of it. Well, they might as well go home. You just got coloured blobs in the back of shot. So I've had production designers flip out at DOPs on jobs because they can't see the set. They're just in a fuzzy room.
We had a production designer, Ryan McCarthy, who does Black Mirror and whatnot, and we were talking about that as well. Just sort of, and that's important. At the end of the day, you are collaborating with a bunch of departments trying to get to one goal, so not being so selfish is going to make the film.
And a lot of the time that wasn't a selfish choice made by the DOP. It was just an artistic one that they made as they liked it, and they didn't I'm maybe putting words in their mouth again, but I just don't believe they even considered that. I don't believe they even considered that their stop choice essentially voided another department's time and effort and work.
And just to finish on a final note, what advice would you give young DOPs out there in building that relationship with an AC, when working with ACs? Or focus pullers, should I say?
That's a hard one. Go for a beer with them. get the vibe of the person before you hire them.
Yeah.
See if you gel. If you gel personality wise, I think that's a really good start. I've worked with DOPs, come onto jobs where we're just fundamentally different people, and we didn't get on, and it was abrasive. It was an abrasive experience for both of us. We both did our jobs, but it was more difficult than it had to be. That's life. That is work. But the choice for me, all my assistants, I've worked with all of my. I've at least socially met all of my assistants before I've worked with them. I've vetted them socially.
Yeah.
Gone for a coffee, gone for a beer, just to see what they're like. Chuck them a few slightly difficult questions and see how they respond to it. How are you under pressure? How are you under a bit of stress? So I almost like that for me. I do like that for me. I'd like to meet the person I'm going to work with before I work with them, just to sort of figure out the vibe, and then ask them just a few pointed, honest questions of, look, if we're we're in a spot and we've got a difficult scene in the dark, wandering around like handheld, following someone with a knife. Can you give me more stop? How would you feel? How would you feel about giving me more stop? Finding the lines, finding the sticking points. Oh no, I'd really rather not do that. I'd really rather maintain the look of the film, or what. Finding the measure of people and finding what they're okay with, and before you jump on set, and then having to make those questions or ask those questions and test the lines in a stressful situation.
No, that's a good point. It's a very good point. That's often forgotten. So, and then just to finish off, what can we expect of you? I know obviously you can't talk about what you're working on right now, but what can we expect out of you? What's coming up? Anything exciting that you can kind of let the world know?
No.
A man of mysteries.
No. There's a couple of whispers of some high-end TV at the end of the year, which I'm really banking on main unit for, which we'll see. But no, it's getting busier. I've got my phone ringing quite a lot now, which is really nice. I feel like the industry's in a much better spot than it's been in the last 2-3 years. At least for the people, my circle. I'm things looking good.
Brilliant. Well, listen,
and we're going to go to Mexico to shoot a feature, aren't we? I'm banking on that right now. I'm fingers crossed. Hopefully by the time this episode airs, I'll have news. So, but yeah, man, thank you for coming on. Very welcome.
And man, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.